Hey, what's going on, my friend? In today's video, we are going to answer the question, why aren't my kettlebell workouts working better? Well, I'll tell you. There are three reasons, and we're going to cover them right now. But first, a little preface for you. Back when I was a young buck, and man, it really pains me to have to say that, right? It makes me sound like one of those old guys. Back when I was a kid, right? I mean, that really, if you're my age, being a young buck seems like just yesterday. Anyway, I worked out, trained in the college gym, which actually was more like a dungeon. And that's because it was in the basement of the Rutgers College Recreation Center. And before it was the gym, it was actually the rifle range. Yeah, like back in the 1960s, it was an indoor rifle range. And coincidentally, my dad went to Rutgers and he was on the rifle team, which is kind of funny because just like the rifles that my dad and his team practiced with, right, our workouts were incredibly simple and highly effective, right, very accurate. And I think the reason why is because they were passed down to us from bigger, stronger lifters, right? Or through obscure magazines found in the back of classified ads like Powerlifting USA, for example, which I don't think is still in print. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, in other words, our input or our influence was incredibly limited at the time. In fact, it seems to me like we had a trial by fire approach to everything back then in the good old pre-internet era, back in the days when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, right? So if a philosophy worked, we simply kept it. And if we didn't, we tossed it, right? We checked it out. And that process to pressure check or pressure test a philosophy usually took between 3 and 6 weeks, right? We would see results in as little as 3 weeks, sometimes as long as 6 weeks. And if we were really patient or impatient, however you want to look at it, or it was a particularly complicated program, it took as long as 12 weeks if you were running like a powerlifting cycle and trying to peak and get a new max, right? So I don't really think this process exists anymore. And that's because of these three reasons. So reason number one is we have the internet right here. You're on the internet right now watching this video. And the bad news is we can Google anything. Right. We also have social media and forums where you can ask anyone anything. And more often than not, we keep asking until we get the answer that we want. Right. So the answer that feels good or is convenient to us. This sounds great. The problem in many cases, apart from getting an answer that we want versus the answer we need, is that there are too many answers, right? You literally don't have time to weigh them all, to test them all out. So, for example, a guy who's been working out for a year has a very different perspective on training than somebody who's been training or working out for 10 or 20 or 30 years, right? And many times on a forum, you won't know the first guy from the second, right? Not to mention that some people just don't follow directions well, right? And some do. So at the end of the day, there are really just too many opinions and too much information to sort through and sift through to get an accurate answer. And because of that, right, for some, actually probably for many, based on a lot of the emails that I get, this breeds a lot of doubt, a lot of confusion, and even some low-grade anxiety in some folks as to whether or not they're doing the right workouts, right? Or at least whether you're doing the right workouts for you, or worse, whether or not you're secretly missing out on the latest, greatest workout that is going to magically transport you from where you are now to ripped, jacked, and Navy SEAL fit in the next 6 weeks, right? Obviously, a little tongue in cheek there. So that's one reason. Reason number two probably follows up from reason number one, and that's simply compliance, right? Some people's adherence to workout programs is like that old joke. Old jerk. Yeah, it's like that too. It's like that guy too, right? The old joke goes like this. Hey, I have a shirt just like that, except it's blue. So they read program instructions the way they want to see them. And I know this is probably not you. It's probably like you probably know somebody like this, or you got a friend like this, right? Or you've talked to somebody like this on a forum. So they read the program instructions the way they want to see them, right? 3 reps? Why only 3 reps? I like 10 reps, so I'm going to do 10 reps. Front squats? Oh, man, I hate those. So I'm going to do, whatever exercise they want to do, they insert in there. Talk test? You guys, right, know what the talk test is? We'll cover that some other time. But they go, talk test? That's lame. I'm going to use EMOM because that's what Jason Khalipa, the world champion CrossFit guy, that's what he uses, right? And obviously, right, I want to be like Jason. Or here's another one. Golly, man, my shoulder's killing me, but, I'm going to tough it out anyway. No pain, no gain. So they keep pressing until, something pops, breaks, or they just can't press anymore. Now, look, I am not saying that this is you, right? Heaven forbid. Like I said, you probably know somebody like this, right? We all have friends who do this sort of thing, right? But let me just make this point that if you're not doing the program as written, then you're not doing the program. That means as a result, you have changed the program and can no longer accurately assess whether or not said program is working or has worked for you. You get it? Because, right, that's not how the author or the developer or designer of the program wrote the program. All right. So that's reason number two. Reason number three, and this one should be obvious, but it's not. It will take you a while to see this one most likely. And that is the program that you're following is just garbage, right? There are some genetic freaks on the internet, and there are some genetic freaks who use PEDS on the internet. And there are some guys, a lot of guys who use PEDS on the internet, right? You can see a lot of them on Instagram, and there's probably quite a few of them here on YouTube. And because they're genetic freaks who use PEDS or using PEDS, right? Pretty much anything they do will get them results. Okay. Now, the problem with that is most likely, if you're like me, you're not a genetic freak, you're not using PEDS, and you're not combining the two. So that poses a big problem, especially if these guys are pimping kettlebell workouts, because in your mind, in our mind, and what they're portraying is, I'm this huge genetic ripped jacked freak with a six pack, do my kettlebell workouts, and you're going to look just like me. Right? But that is just a bald-faced lie. So just watch out for these guys, and just know that more often than not, a lot of their workouts are garbage. All right. So let's just sum this up, land this plane. Look, if you want the results that you're after using kettlebell workouts, right? Kettlebells, kettlebell workouts, kettlebell programs, however you want to phrase this, right? However we want to discuss this conversation, make sure that the program you're using does one of three things. One, make sure it truly matches your goals, right? Your wants, needs, desires, and more importantly, your limitations. Number two, make sure that your program is grounded in reality. Okay. So if it's 6 weeks to a six pack or 6 weeks to a superhero and you're 100 pounds overweight, okay, not saying you are, that's a program that's not grounded in reality. Right. And finally, make sure it's from a reputable source. Make sure the person that you bought the program from or scraped the program from or downloaded the program from the internet, okay, has actually been in the game for a while. All right. So if you found this video helpful, go ahead and click the like button, leave me a comment, and hit subscribe. And if you found it really helpful, tell your friends about it, right? So that we can grow this channel and get the word out about kettlebell workouts and kettlebell programming that actually work and just aren't a giant beatdown. All right. Especially for guys like us who are, well, you may be guys who are in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. All right. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you next time. Until then, stay strong.